Berlin, August 1943. An SS officer sits at a cafe table reviewing documents. A man in civilian clothes approaches, asks for directions, and produces what appears to be a fountain pen to note the response. He presses the clip. The pen fires a single 4.25 millimeter round that enters the officer's chest at point-blank range. The shooter replaces the pen in his pocket and walks away. The officer dies 4 minutes later on the cafe floor. Witnesses report hearing nothing louder than a cough. The weapon that killed him measured 5.2 inches in length, weighed 1.4 ounces, and was indistinguishable from a standard writing instrument until the moment it fired. It had no rifling, no ejection mechanism, and no visible barrel. It was designed by German intelligence services and later used against them by the same resistance networks it was meant to arm. The problem facing intelligence agencies in occupied Europe during the early 1940s was proximity. Conventional weapons, even suppressed pistols, required space to draw, aim, and fire. An agent attempting to eliminate a target in a crowded restaurant, a busy street, or a government office faced immediate tactical problems. Drawing a visible weapon created reaction time for the target and witnesses. The sound of even a suppressed shot attracted attention. The physical act of firing created distance between assassin and victim, allowing potential intervention. Intelligence operations required something that did not exist. A weapon that appeared completely innocuous until the moment of use, functioned at contact range, produced minimal sound, and allowed the user to remain in character as a civilian throughout the entire engagement. The solution emerged from German weapons development facilities sometime in 1942, though exact documentation remains classified or destroyed. The Stiftpistole, literally a pen pistol, was a single-shot firearm disguised as a fountain pen. The outer casing was machined steel with a black enamel finish identical to standard Mont Blanc and Pelican pens common in Europe during the period. The clip was functional and could be used to secure the pen to a pocket. The cap screwed onto the body in normal fashion. Removing the cap revealed what appeared to be a conventional nib assembly. The internal mechanism was less conventional. The body of the pen contained a smooth-bore barrel measuring 2 millimeters in diameter and approximately 80 millimeters in length. A single 4.25 millimeter rim-fire cartridge sat in a chamber at the rear of the barrel. The round was custom manufactured and not compatible with any standard ammunition. The bullet was a pointed lead projectile weighing approximately 15 grains. The propellant charge generated roughly 450 feet per second muzzle velocity. The firing mechanism was integrated into the clip. Pressing the clip downward against spring tension rotated an internal striker into contact with the cartridge rim. The pressure required was approximately 12 pounds, enough to prevent accidental discharge, but light enough to activate with deliberate thumb pressure. To fire the weapon, the user held the pen normally as if preparing to write. The target needed to be within arm's reach. The shooter pressed the pen's tip against the target's body, typically the torso or neck. Pressing the clip fired the round. The pen's barrel was in direct contact with the target at the moment of discharge, eliminating any gap for gas expansion or sound propagation. The report was muffled by the target's own body. Witnesses standing 3 meters away typically heard nothing identifiable as a gunshot. The bullet penetrated clothing and skin, then tumbled through tissue due to lack of rifling. At contact range, even the small 4.25 millimeter projectile created a wound channel disproportionate to its size. The tumbling bullet fragmented upon striking bone, creating secondary projectiles that damaged surrounding tissue. Death was not always immediate, but incapacitation was nearly universal. The target collapsed or lost motor function within seconds. Reloading required partial disassembly. The user unscrewed the nib assembly, removed the spent cartridge case manually, inserted a fresh round, and reassembled the pen. The process took approximately 30 seconds with practice. This made the pen strictly a single engagement weapon. Once fired, the assassin needed to withdraw and could not engage additional targets without time to reload in a secure location. Testing of pen guns was conducted at facilities associated with the Abwehr and later the SD, though specific proving grounds remain unidentified in declassified records. Ballistic testing involved firing into gelatin blocks at contact range and at distances up to 1 meter. Contact shots produced wound cavities measuring approximately 40 millimeters in diameter at maximum expansion. Shots fired from 1 meter showed dramatic accuracy degradation due to the smooth bore and low velocity. The effective range was defined as contact to 10 centimeters maximum. Beyond this distance, the weapon was essentially useless. Medical analysis of wounds created by pen gun ammunition indicated that shots to the torso penetrated on average 60 millimeters to 90 millimeters, depending on clothing and impact angle. This was sufficient to reach vital organs in most cases, but not guaranteed. Headshots at contact range were invariably fatal. Torso shots had a survival rate estimated at 30% if immediate medical intervention was available. Production numbers remain unknown. The extreme secrecy surrounding the program means that no reliable manufacturing records have been declassified. Estimates based on post-war intelligence assessments suggest between 500 and 2,000 units were produced between 1942 and 1944. The weapons were issued to Abwehr agents operating in occupied territories and to selected Gestapo personnel conducting counterintelligence operations. Distribution was tightly controlled. Each pen was assigned to a specific operative and logged by serial number. Agents were required to return the weapon after completing their assignment or to destroy it if capture was imminent. Documented use of pen guns by German intelligence is limited to scattered references in Allied intelligence reports. One confirmed case involved the assassination of a French resistance leader in Lyon in March 1943. The target was killed in a public market by an assailant who approached asking for the time. Another report describes the killing of a Polish courier in Warsaw in June 1943 using a similar method. British MI6 files contain references to at least 4 suspected pen gun attacks against Allied intelligence personnel between 1943 and 1944, though conclusive evidence linking the deaths to pen guns specifically is not available in declassified materials. The weapon's greatest operational success came when it was turned against its creators. Resistance networks captured pen guns from killed or captured Abwehr agents. The weapons were simple enough to understand without technical manuals. Resistance fighters used captured pen guns against German occupation personnel, Gestapo informants, and collaborators. The psychological impact was substantial. German officials became wary of any civilian approaching with a writing implement. Security protocols at German administrative buildings began requiring visitors to surrender pens at checkpoints, though enforcement was inconsistent. Allied intelligence services developed parallel weapons independently. The British SOE produced a similar device designated the .25 ACP pen pistol, though this version used standard .25 ACP ammunition and was larger than the German design. The American OSS created the Stinger, a single-shot pen gun chambered in .22 short. Neither achieved the compact dimensions of the German Stiftpistole. The German version remained the smallest and most concealable lethal pen gun developed during the war. The primary limitation was lethality. The .425 mm round, while capable of killing, was not reliably lethal. Targets shot in the torso sometimes survived long enough to call for help or identify their attacker. The weapon offered no follow-up capability. If the first shot failed to incapacitate, the assassin was left holding an empty pen while the target and witnesses reacted. This made the weapon suitable only for highly trained operatives willing to accept the risk of mission failure. The second limitation was ammunition availability. The custom .425 mm rimfire cartridges were manufactured in limited quantities at specialized facilities. Agents could not acquire replacement ammunition through normal supply channels. Each operative received a fixed number of rounds, typically between 5 and 10. Once expended, the weapon became inert. After the war, examples of the Stiftpistole appeared in intelligence collections and military museums. The weapons were studied extensively by post-war intelligence agencies seeking to understand covert weapon development. The CIA and KGB both developed subsequent generations of concealed firearms based partly on the German pen gun concept. Modern variants exist in various forms, some using chemical propellants, others using compressed gas. the fundamental principle remains unchanged: a lethal weapon concealed in an innocuous object, effective only at contact range, dependent entirely on the user's ability to approach the target without arousing suspicion. The German pen gun killed fewer people than any major weapon system of World War II. Its significance was not in body count, but in method. It represented a philosophy of violence that prioritized stealth over force, proximity over distance, deception over confrontation. The weapon required the assassin to stand close enough to the target to touch them, to look them in the face, to press metal against their body and fire. There was no scope, no distance, no mechanical buffer between killer and victim. The pen that could kill in 2 seconds required the user to spend those 2 seconds close enough to feel the target's final breath.